Hello guys, Jay Knowlton here once again. I really need to do something about this background. I need to finally make it a bit more video friendly. Like the treadmill is still there. I keep thinking about getting it rid of on Gymoti, and you can see the blinds. It's just all white walls. I really need to do something with these walls. If you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments below. So today I wanted to talk about a subject that maybe a lot of people don't necessarily like talking about, but I've seen a lot of videos about maybe ALTs or engineers talking about how much money they make in Japan. And whilst I'm not going to tell you exactly how much I make in Japan, what I want to talk about is if it's possible to make a decent income in Japan. Whereas, when you look at job postings for ALTs or Eikaiwa, the salary might be about 200 to 240,000 yen, which to live in Japan, if you live by yourself, is livable. Now, I remember even 12 years ago when I worked at Peppy Kids Club, they told you explicitly during the training, 240,000 yen is enough to live on your own. But if you think about having a family, you might want to consider something else, which I thought was a bit strange, but at least they're honest in a weird way. Especially with today's conversion rates going to the dollar or the pound, the Japanese yen is terrible. The realistic situation is that if you come here to work in an ALT job or an engineer job and plan to go back to your home country after a year, you're probably going to be left with almost nothing. Now, the great thing about Japan in 2025 is that there's more jobs. There's engineering jobs, there's recruiting, and all different industries you can get into. You can be an influencer, and I'm not doing this to say that I'm an influencer. I'm just expressing that making these videos can make some people money. People will say that engineers don't make nearly as much money as they do in the US, but I also don't think many countries in the world pay as much as they do in the US, and that will probably change in the future too. But you can make a good 6 or 7 million yen. To put it specifically, the average salary for a household in Tokyo is around 5.5. It's between 5.5 and 6 million yen. So if you can make 6 million yen just on your own as an engineer, you're doing very well. Now, recruiting jobs have become very big and they pay a lot more. We're talking more than, if you get good at the industry, just from people that I've talked to, I've got a lot of friends who do recruiting, you can make more than 10 million yen, even getting up to the 20 millions if you get into a senior consultant position and are very good at your job. And that 10 million yen, I would say, is very comfortable living in Japan. If you have a partner who also works, you are going to be smooth sailing, one of those things. So I want people to understand just by watching this video in the first few minutes that if you come here as an ALT or an Eikaiwa teacher, or even working in an international school as a teacher, your income is going to be limited unless you pick up extra jobs on the side. Not going to get enough to have huge savings and stuff like that. Of course, if you get some savings and invest wisely, your future can still be very positive. But I have a little bit of a fear. This is going to be a bit of a story that I came across a couple of years ago now. I'm not going to say where or who, and to be honest, I don't know if they watch YouTube. But I don't think anybody would know him. But I was in a park and there was an American guy and he had a small baby, and we were talking and we were just talking about jobs. And I'm the principal of an international school. I also have my own online teaching thing, and he said that he was just an ALT. And I asked him oh, how long have you been in Japan? He was like, 27 years. I was like, oh my God. So at this point I was just turning 30, 31. So I was like, oh, so you've been in Japan almost as long as I've been alive, and you're still an ALT? And he said, yeah, I cannot speak Japanese. I haven't been able to find anything else. And that kind of scared me a little bit, because he was living in what's called a danchi. It's like these government housing. They're very cheap. You see these big tower blocks, and they're usually numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they've got thousands of families, but they're usually reserved for people with lower income. And I felt shocked that it's possible that people can live here for so long and still make 220, 230 And it kind of shocked me that I was like, oh, didn't you try to learn Japanese? And it was like, yeah, I'm just no good at learning languages. I'm like, well, I'm sure even if you learn like 2 words a day, after 27 years, you could still learn enough words to get by, I think. But I don't want to be judgmental of other people. And if people are happy, that's completely up to them. But we do have to think to the future. And we do have to think to, for example, retirement age. And if you decide to retire in Japan, you are going to have to live on a Japanese pension. And if you haven't, this doesn't just apply to Japan, but if you live in any country in the world, if you haven't prepared yourself for retirement, then you are not going to live a very fun retired life when you're supposed to be relaxing a little bit more, supposed to be taking better care of yourself. And it kind of shocked me that this guy is not that far away from retirement and he is still working a job where he's not going to be able to save. His kid will still be in junior high school by the time he retires, and it's just by the time the kid gets into university, he's going to be almost 70. Life happens, different things happen, you know, we don't know what his story is, but that kind of made me a little bit more serious of, I never want to be like that. Personally, I have a very comfortable life. I'm the principal of an international school. I have my own online teaching thing, which is very successful. And yearly, I make more than 10 million yen a year, luckily. So I am very lucky. And my wife also works full time. So we are able to have what I consider a very fruitful life here in Japan. We don't go crazy. We purposely don't go crazy. We save effectively. We invest effectively, because I know that I'm 33 now. If I live like a Japanese person, I hopefully will live a lot longer than 33. So I need to be able to keep not only myself, but my wife and my daughter safe forever. In Japan, there are investing systems such as the NISA system. You can also do stocks and stuff like that. The iDeCo, not something that I can really go into detail here. It's better you search a guy called Retire Japan. He has a lot of good information about that. But even though you come to live in another country, you do have to be conscious of what the future looks like, no matter where you are. So when you're choosing a job, even if you're desperate for a visa, always have in the back of your mind what the next step is going to be. Okay, if you're really desperate to come to Japan and you pick up a ALT position at one of the considered like black ALT companies, try and figure out what you're going to do to get out of it and into a better position once you're here. At the end of the day, these ALT, these Kaiwa companies, they don't care about you. They have to get as many students as possible and make as much money as possible. You are just there to keep the students in the school. They're not interested in your progression or your life. So be very conscious of that. Study, get qualifications, study Japanese, do what you can to find a good paying job. Not even just a good paying job, even if it's like 6 million yen a year, you are going to be able to have a relatively decent life in Japan. If you live on 3 million yen a year for years and years and years, you are never going to be able to unleash what Japan can do for you. Travel around the country, buy a house, have a car all paid off, be able to, you know, indulge in your hobbies as much as you want. Things that you would expect to do in your home country, but then in Japan might be very limited by. This is, you know, we're going to be, it's been a bit of a vague video, but I hope you can get a little bit of an idea about what money means in Japan and what you should really be looking for. Of course, I'm sure everyone's aware that you need more money, but just that if you are in the English teaching industry, aim for something more, aim for something different, even if it's a job that you might not like 100%. I'm sure that once you get the satisfaction of a stable lifestyle, a stable income, a stable savings rate, you will really understand where the motivation to strive comes from. Thank you all for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next time.